Okay, so first let's have an attendance. Section 1.
Sir,
Yes. IT15 01. Okay, so today is May 27. Mr. Abuan,
present sir.
present. Okay ba yung audio?
Yes sir.
Okay, present. Aguilar,
Present sir.
ano yun? Aguilar.
Present sir.
Ayun. Bakani,
Present sir.
rounded. Balsita, Mr. Balsita, absent. Bergantin, wala. Duque, Duque, absent. Gallegos, Gauna,
Present sir.
Go,
Present sir.
Agoot, hide column, Hagoot, Mr. Hagoot, absent. Hidalgo,
Present sir.
present. Jose,
Present sir.
Balsita,
Present sir.
Manalon, Manalon, absent. Mendoza,
Present sir.
Mercado,
Present sir.
Orpilla, Orpilla, Pimentel,
Sir, present.
Rimurin,
Present sir.
Surel, Surel, absent. Balubar,
Present, sir.
Kalika,
Present, sir.
Corpus,
Present, sir.
and Dacumus.
Present, sir.
Manalon,
Sir, present.
Gapi, Gapi, Calianto,
Present, sir.
Sir,
Lasa,
Gapi present, Gapi present.
Gapi present. Lasaga,
Present, sir.
Leonin,
Present, sir.
Maniques, Maniques, Obra,
Present, sir.
Tabafunda,
Present.
Okay, so let's go now to our Google Classroom.
Sir, present.
Sorella. Okay, so let's go now to our Google Classroom. So in our Google Classroom, okay, section 2, section 1. PHP session. Week 15. Okay, material. Okay, so later on, I'll be giving you my material. So week 15, yeah. Uh, I'll be demonstrating to you. By the way, do you have any question regarding our topic last week, the PHP session, login module? Class? None?
Wala naman, sir.
Okay, good. Okay, so so today we'll be organizing web your web page or your web application. Um, let me open my project, htdoc and crude. Yeah. Localhost, crude. Okay, so this will be our topic for today. I want you to organize your application, your web application. So for example, here I have the navigation bar. I have some experiment on the chat, but I will not be discussing this one. Okay, so we have the create module. So we have the create module, we have the read module, and then under the read module, it is advisable to put your edit and delete method in your read module. Kasi in our previous topics, we have the student information. So for the student information, we have the create, read, okay, and then we have the update. So for the update, we need to input the ID. Okay, so for example, update number 1, then mark 1 to, for example, Jeric, Kasugay. Okay, update. So in order for you to update the record, you need to know the ID number. But using this method, no need to know the ID number kasi it's already in your web page. So for example, I want to edit this one. Jose, update. So it will automatically update your profile or your data without entering the ID number. So this is much more advisable rather than using this method. Okay, this is old fashioned way of updating the record. So we have this new method. And then another example for the delete, you need to know the ID number before you can delete the the record. So for example, I want to delete ID record number 1, ID number 1, delete, and then that's it. But in here, you can just click the delete button and then it will automatically delete your record. Okay, I'll be discussing that later on. And then we have the search method, and then we have the, I don't know why is it the search method 2 is not working, but I'll be discussing that in our next topics. Okay. Okay, so let's start. For the create, I have here. Um, by the way, this is my. Okay, so this is my mistake. Why the ID? Supposedly the ID is very unique. Okay, so let me check muna the database. The database that I'm using is, for example, the PPMC, HRISDB. Yeah. Siguro, first, so let me delete muna. Let me delete this database. PHP, and then drop. Okay. Good. So once we run our program, unknown database because we didn't yet created, I deleted the database a while ago. Um, I'll be giving you this project files. So first, I have here the database. So this is my database. You can change the database name if you want. And then let's go to our localhost. No, database. Then create. Okay, so once we created the database, next is because I've already export export the table here, the SQL. Yeah. Anyway, so I have here the information, here information. Saan yan? Under the database folder, I have the information. Just copy, okay, Control C, and then go to your database and click. Okay, so see to it that your database is click, and then click the SQL, then paste, then go. So it will automatically create the table for the information there. Okay, so let's try if we can, and then the username and password. Now for the username and password, if we look at our, okay, so let's open our index. So in our index, we have the login.php. I've already discussed to you what is the session. Okay, so let's open the login.php. Okay, so login.php account. So we need the account table. Okay, account table. So here in our database folder, we have the account file, and then let's go now to our database again, and then SQL, and then let's open this one account. Control C, copy, and then paste. Go. So we have two tables. We have the information table, and then we have the account table. Okay. So I have only one record for my account, username and password. Okay, so let's try Jofer Reyes. Okay. Okay, so let's try to create. For the create, like I said, this is my mistake for the ID because the ID should be unique. But in my database, Okay, in my database information, click structure, our ID is not auto increment. So that is one of um, my mistake. Why? I'll be discussing that why do we need to have a unique data in our database later on. So let's try first record, then name. Now I have here the subject. Mostly, so we have the drop down. This is connected to a database, this subject. So that's why we have the subject management. There are a lot of system that requires a management. So for example, a subject management. So I need to add a subject. So for example, math. When we add math in our database, so basically it should be what? It should be shown in this drop down subject. But then again, when we take a look at the subject.php, so let's go now to our subject.php. Yeah. So once we click the submit button, it will go to the subject process.php. So let's open the subject process.php. So it says here we have the database connection, insert. So we should have a table named subject details. So we need to create. Okay, so we need to create go to yeah, table. So subject details. So two columns, one for the ID. Okay, so the ID should be a unique, so it should be auto increment, and that is primary key. And then we have what? Subject. The column name is subject, so based from our code. To make it safe, I'll be using text as my data type. Let's see. There. So I have the ID and then the subject. Now, let's try to create. So once we created or save a subject in our database, then supposedly in our create module, it will retrieve and display it in here in this part. Let's try math. Submit. Then let's take a look at our database. Subject details, we have math. Okay, good. And then let's go to our create module. Oh, we have math. And then let's try another subject, English. Add English subject. Then go to our database. Then take a look. So we have math and English. So here in our create module, we have math and English. Okay. Another example, last computer. Computer. Submit. Then in our create, we have math, English, and computer. I'll be discussing that later on. So for example, I'll be creating a record, personal information, one, then Jofer, date of birth, for example, 27, kakapanganak ko pa lang, submit. Ayan. Ayan. Bakit wala? Jofer, Jose Riz. Okay. Dapat should. Okay, so let's try another record. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Ano ba? Jeric. Math. Date of birth. 25. Submit. None happen. Why? So, let's take a look at the create.php. Create.php. I'll be discussing this one later. So when we click the submit button, it will go to our create process.php. We have here. Okay, so what is another mistake in this code? Okay. So you have to dissect, you have to debug your code. You have to check if there's an information in your database, I mean information table in your database. So in our database here, we have the information table, and then you have to check the columns. You have the ID, check. You have the data 1, check. And then we have the data 2, check. Data 2, and then the subject. So meaning we need to create or add a column subject. So go to the structure. Okay, again, go to your database, to your table, and then go to your structure, and then add columns after data 2. Okay, so subject, text, save. Okay, and then let's check. We have ID, data 1, data 2, and then we have the subject. Now in our code, we have ID, data 1, data 2, and then we have the subject. So it's complete. Then let's try it again. Okay, create record number 4, Jeric, and then any date, submit. There. So meron na siya. Okay? Another example, what if, okay, so take note that in my structure, I don't have any primary key. The ID is not a primary key, so the ID is not unique. So I can put or save some data that has a same ID number. So for example, ID number 1. ID number 1, can I create? Let's try. So, ano lang, Mike, English, and then date, submit. Okay, so we have ID number 1, Jofer, and then we have another ID number 1, Mike. So one of the disadvantage of not using a primary key and having no unique data in your database, in your record, what will happen? If in case that I will edit this one, okay lang. Okay, so try it again. Edit Joffer and Mike. So make it Ricky. Then update. Then let's see what will happen to our database. There, 1 Ricky and then 1. So a while ago, the first record ID number 1 is Joffer, and then the second ID 1 record is Mike. What happened? Both of them changed to what I entered a while ago, Ricky. So that is one of the disadvantage. They call it logical error. Although the syntax is correct, but the output is wrong, so that is logical error. Yan. And then once you delete it, what will happen? It will delete both this record and then this record. Delete. See, I don't have any ID number 1, though a while ago we have 2 records with ID number 1. Okay, so that is one of the disadvantage of not creating a unique primary key in your database. So that is very important. Not like in our subject, I have put ID as my primary key, and that is auto increment. Okay, so in PHP SAMP, once you click the auto increment AI, so it will automatically create or make that column a primary key. Okay, so that is for the read. And then for the search, we have 2 methods. Okay, so for the search method 1, so I have here 2 and the name is J. So search method ID 2 with first letter J. So 2, Jose. Read 3J. 3 with the first letter J in the name, we have Jose Rizal, number 3. But what if ID number 2 and G? ID number 2 and first letter of the name is G. Okay, so no result found. So I'll be discussing this one later on. And then for the search method 2, this is not working, but I'll be creating uh, I'll be discussing this one in our next topics. Supposedly it is auto search, or they call it live search. Anyway, first create. This one is based from our subject management, and then it will retrieve from our um, drop down list. Let's open our create process. Yes. So we're in the create process, no chat, create.php. So in our create.php, so we have the ID, label ID, and then we have the name, we have name, label, and then here I used, okay, so for this one, okay, this is for the subject. So this is the subject, label, and then we have the select and option. So during your HTML, your web development subject, platform based web development ba yun? You have select and option for the drop down, this one. So I'm using that one. Okay, so I have here the select, cell ID is cell, name is subject, and then here I have the PHP command. First is I want to select all the data from my subject details, because what I want to see in this drop down is my subject based from our database. So this is our database, okay? And so subject details, so select all from the subject details table, and then we have the query. So first we have the connection. I've already discussed this one, what is con. So in our database connection, so here there should be a database connection. We have the database connection here. The variable is con. So in our create, this is our database connection, and this is our query SQL. So we use the query method, and then this one is used for this is a conditional statement where you can check if there's a record in your database. Result num rows. Num rows, it will count the number of rows in your database. So if there's greater than 0 record in your database, then it will do the looping. So this is our looping statement. So I'm using the looping statement so that it will what? In our database, it will get the data or read the data from our database from record 1 to the last record. Okay, so that is for the looping statement. This is our looping statement. Fetch ASOC, meaning it will retrieve all the data from our database. It will read fetch ASOC. So I'm like I said, I'm using the looping statement so that it will read the data or record in my database from the first record to the last record. Looping statement. Then next is we have the option. So first we have the value. The value is used for holding the data, and then this one is used for displaying. So that's why I'm using the echo there. So here, so it will retrieve from our database from the first record to until the last record. So looping statement, and then I have here the option. Okay, to retrieve, I have used the row, this one, variable, and then the column name. So this is my column name. Okay, and then once you click the submit button, it will go to our create process. So let's go now to our create process. So first, it will get the ID. So here we have text box name ID. So we have the ID, we have data 1, data 2. By the way, I'm using post method. So here post data 1, data 2, data 1, and where's the data 2? Okay, data 1 and then data 2. And then we have the subject. Okay, so the subject here. So we have data 1 name, and then we have the select name subject. The value of this drop down is what? This is the value based from the retrieved data. And then we have here the insert into information, then the following columns plus the values. Okay, and then it will redirect. So I'm using the header location read.php so that once the create process is successful, then it will redirect to your read.php. Okay, so that is for the subject management. So if in case that you need a management in your system, then you can use this method. Yan. Okay, next, in our read method, like I said, it is not advisable that you have to input the, for example, the ID number that you want to update, or even the delete. You need to enter the ID number of the person that you want to delete the record in your database. So here, this is much more advisable in your web page, or yeah. So no need for you to enter the ID, because once you click the button, then it will redirect to your framework, edit framework, or edit web page, and then we have the delete. I'll be discussing to you, we have two methods. We have the post method, and then we have the get method. But okay, so let's open the read module. Okay, so in our read module, so basically you have to retrieve. So first, you have to select, or we have the query, select all from the information, which is our table. We have the database connection plus the query. Okay, and then we have error. If in case that there is an error in your string or in your program, then it will display your error anyway. And then next is, this one is checking if there's a record in your database. So number of rows, like I said, the num rows is used for counting the number of rows in your database. So if it is greater than 0, so meaning that's not empty, then it will do the following line of code. So this is the next. So We have read student information, read student information. We have personal information. Print, I'll be discussing this one later on. How to, um, when you click this one, it should, parang it should open this dialog, print dialog. Anyway, let's continue. And then we have the table here. So this is our table. First is um, table, and then we have the table row, and table row, and then we have, saan yung, yan. So this is our table row. Table header, we have the ID, the name, the date, and then we have call span. Then we have the action. So this is the action. Call span 3 columns. So ID, name, date, and action. ID, name, date, and action. Next, so I'm using again looping statement. Then fetch ASOC to retrieve the data from our first record to until the last record. Okay. So table row until here. Table row. And then we have the table data. First, we have the ID so that it will retrieve the data from our database. First record number 2, ID number 2, data 1, Jose, date. This is the date. And so if you want to add some, then you can siguro, for example, ano yung isa? Subject. The subject, save. There, we have math. Okay, yun. Anyway, then next is I'm using the form for the second table data. This one, let me refresh. Edit method 2. So edit method 2 and submit edit method 2. So this is the edit method 2. I'm using post method. So for the post method, when you click the submit button, it will go to your edit method 2.php. Okay, and then I have here input type hidden. So let me change this to text. Yeah. Pag na-change ko na ng text yon, then definitely it will what? Display the data sa text box. So yun nga, like I said, no need to put the ID number kasi it's already in your text box yung data. Okay, but you have to hide the data, so I'm using the hidden type so that you cannot modify the content. Hindi mo na siya pwedeng baguhin. So refresh. So naka-hide lang siya, but definitely there will be an object for that will hold the data for the ID, data 1, data 2. Okay, same with true with the delete. Ganun din. Pwede nyong palitan ng text para makikita lang yung ID number. Para alam niya kung ano yung di-delete niyang record later on. So, yun. Hidden. Save, refresh. Okay? Yan. So, like I said, if you click the submit button, so pupunta lang yan sa edit method 2. Then, for the edit method 2, so this is our edit method 2. And for example, so pupunta lang siya dito, edit method 2. Okay, and then edit method 2. So this is our edit method 2. So first we have the connection, the SQL, fetch ASOC, etc. Retrieving the data from our database. And then yan. So same yung tinuro kong paano mag-update. So same, and then we have the submit button using the post, then go to the update.php. go to the update.php. Update.php. So this is my update.php where here you can put the SQL command. Update information set ID data1 and so on and so forth where ID is equal to ID. Okay? So yan. Next. Um, next is okay, so by the way, do you have any question with that? For the delete method, same wait. Tama tayo sa read. So, we have the delete, ganun din same. When you click the delete button, it will go to our delete method 2. So, open delete method 2. So, this is our delete method 2. Delete from information where the ID is equal to ID. Then, read. It will redirect to our read.php. Okay? Yeah. Babalik lang siya doon. Okay? So, that is for the edit method 2 and delete method 2. Do you have any question, class? Still there? Wala na? Tulog na lahat? Wala akong kausap. Okay, so I think you understand. Next, we have method 1 and method 2. Ito, method 2 for the post method. We have another method. So, for example, 3J. 3J. But before I will discuss that, yan, meron tayong edit method 1 and edit method 2. What is the difference? Edit method 1, meron siyang ID doon. So that's why it's not been used in other programming kasi the data is already posted in our localhost. I mean in our address bar. So parang prone for hacking. So the edit method 2, so hindi nagpapakita yung record natin doon. But using the edit method 1, we have the ID here is equal to 3. I'll be discussing that later on. But first, let's go now to our search method 1. Search method 1. Search method 1. So this is our search method 1. Okay, search method 1, ID, and then we have the drop down ABC. Okay, so we have here table, and then we have the text ID and text box, name is ID, and then we have the select and option. Yung select and option. Okay, so the name is data1 and ABCD, and then once we click the submit button, it will go to our search process method 1. So let's open search process method 1. So it will go here. And so if you take a look at our query, select all from the information table where we have two conditions. Dalawang condition natin dito. We have the ID where search. Ano ba yung search? Nasaan yung search natin? Search method 1. Okay. What is this? Where ID is like search. So, search is our ID. Okay, yan na. Search is our ID. So, here, that is based from our text box ID. Then, dito, meron tayong ID. Anong gamit nito? So, alam na natin to. This is our variable search. Pero, anong gamit nito? Do you have any idea what is the usage of this percentage, percent sign, plus dyan ba kayo? Do you have a database management system subject? Wala akong kausap. Obra. Wala, nag-left. Hidalgo nag-left. Balsita. Hello.
Sir, ano yun?
Ayun. Meron ba kayong database management system 1? I mean database management system subject?
Wala pa po, sir.
Ay, wala pa kayong infoman.
Ay, meron,
Meron,
sir.
sir.
Ayun.
Meron, sir.
Sa Infoman, di ba, ano yung database?
Yes, sir.
Ayun, database management system. So, in your database management system, tinuruan na ba sa inyo itong merong percent?
Yes, sir.
Anong gamit ng percent?
Sir, depende, ay pag nag-search ka, sir, depende yung layout ng percent pag nasa una, sir, or nasa gitna yung letter na sa search, or nasa dulo, sir.
Oh, sasabihin ko daw kay Ma'am Jack kung hindi daw kayo makasagot. Andito kasi si Ma'am Jack. Alam niya lang ang sagot niya. Okay, good. Tama yon. So, it depends on where is the position of the percent. Kung nasa beginning or at the end. But in my program kasi, it's at the beginning and then at the end. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, the start and ending. Okay? Like, and then we have here two conditions like ID is like search and data 1 like data 1. Our data 1 is what? Our data 1 is ito. Starting point at J. Kaya nga nandito sa last part yung present. So that's why all the data na beginning with the first letter for example J, yan J, then it will retrieve. So I'm using end. So meaning both conditions should be true para ilabas niya. Okay, so once there's a record, so yan so meron siya nakita na one record matches my conditions, then it will what? It will display it in our dito sa read. So ano yun? 3 and Jose. 3 and J. So meron siya nakita, both conditions are true. Meron ID 3 and then meron tayong data 1. Our data 1 starts with J. Yung yan, ito siya. Okay? Yan. And then okay, so I think it is clear itong ginawa. And then we have two methods. Ano yung unang method? First, yung second method kasi that I'm saying is that yung using the post method. Okay, we have edit method 2.php. So edit method 2.php. Edit method 2, tama ba? Edit method 2.php. So yan, using the post. Okay? Now, we have the edit method 1. So, saan na yun? Punta tayo sa wala na ako. Search process method 1. Search process method 1. Yan. So, we have here, this is my edit method 2 and this is my edit method 1. If you notice, what is the difference? Ito nga lang, we have only one line of code, but what? Once I'm using the href linking, hyperlink siya. Pero pwede nyo din gawing button if you want, but I'm using the hyperlink. So kapag clinic ko daw si edit method 1, this one, edit method 1, then it will go to our edit method 1.php. Let's try. There, edit method 1.php question mark ID is equal to 3. Alam niyo na to kung sa to. Ito lang pinapakita niya na ID number 3 siya. Okay? There. Then it will go to our edit method 1.php. Edit method 1.php. Where's my edit method 1.php? Yan, to. Using the get method. So, if this is your format, okay? If this is your format, yan, you will be using the get method. Okay? Get method. Yun lang naman ang kaibahan, the post method and then the get method. Okay? And then, select all from, and then retrieve the data from our database and etc. Okay? So, that is the edit method. Even in our delete method, ganun din. So, if you will be using this method, yan, href delete method 1.php is equal to id is equal to etc. Then it will go to our delete method 1. Delete method 1 using the get method. Okay? Ayan lang. Now for the search, this is a live search. Pero it's not working. I don't know what's wrong with my program. PHP live search. Ano ba tayong sample? But anyway, I'll be discussing this one. But you can, ayun no, no suggestion. Ayan. So for the live search kasi, like for example in our Google, yan. Punta tayo sa Google. Google.com. Google.com, meron siyang, this one, Lorma, meron siyang suggested key, parang ganun, links. This is live search. They call it live search. Yan. Philippines. Meron siyang mga suggested links. So supposedly here, in my search method 2, it should be live search, but I don't know what's wrong with my code, but I'll be fixing this program later on. This will be our next topic. Okay, so our topic for today is we have the subject management. Retrieve that in our when drop down. Then we have the read. In our read, we have the methods, edit and delete method. So that's it. Thank you.